Hello and welcome to Broken Entertainment. I'm going to cover two things. This is a Sunday writing video coming to you probably not on Sunday. And the first one of these is the descriptive text for, that would be basically the back cover for the book Shadow Empire, which is my epic fantasy novel that I'm working on. It is about 15% done as far as draft 0 is concerned. This is the second draft of this particular element of text, and it will see more changes as I go along. I've had some help from some other creators in editing this as well, and I think it's in a pretty good place, but there will be some changes that I make. So I'll go ahead and read that, and then we will move along to the description of one of the characters. We already covered the main character, and I want to cover his wife as well. So, first up. The world is broken, and Svaran of Cyril is the only one who can see it. As the inheritor-elect of the Cyril Commonwealth, it is his duty to travel to the southern lands of his father's kingdom, to quell the doubts of lords who have long felt the southern territories are ignored. His travels reveal cracks deeper than anything he can repair. To make matters worse, another enemy lurks in the shadows. The undeserving have returned. Descendants of the mages who nearly destroyed the world in the Arcanaclysm, the undeserving will unleash an even worse disaster on a world utterly unprepared for them. As southern Cyril threatens to fall into their unrelenting grasp, he must take steps no others are prepared to make. He must turn the Hydroxy, the very people his father has spent a lifetime enslaving, from enemies into allies. No one else is better equipped to fight magic. No one else is more willing to fight to the bitter end, and no one else is more eager to kill him. That transfer over to his wife. Her name is Syria. She was originally known as Syria of Ketris. Now she is Syria of Cyril, being married to the inheritor-elect. She was betrothed to him when he was 6 and she was 16, and she's what's known as a mentor wife. Now, a mentor wife in Cyril nobility is where they betroth two individuals to one another, and the first of those individuals is always the heir to the household, and the second one is to be his first wife, his mentor wife. She's older than him. He's usually 6 at the time. She's usually 16, the age of majority, based on medieval European ages of majority and so on. She is then educated in the things that she needs to know to teach him. She teaches him the fundamental skills and knowledge that he needs to be able to run a household or the government or whatever part of the nobility he's in. That's not something you see outside of that. Peasants do not have mentor wives. They can't afford them, and they don't really have anything. You know, these kids are growing up with their family. They're growing up doing this stuff side by side with their parents, so they don't have to. But nobility often would have a guardian for their children who did most of the raising, while they themselves did not. Now, Syria is a reformer. She is somebody who believes that the Cyril Commonwealth can and should be a better place than it is, and she's not wrong. You know, going into this, you're not supposed to believe the Cyril Commonwealth is the epitome of morality, especially because they treat women very, very poorly. They also treat other people very, very poorly. The Hydroxy are slaves. They actively go out and seek Hydroxy tribes and enslave them and sell them off to other parts of the kingdom. The way they treat women is meant to be an extreme, because one of the themes this book deals with is extremism. Now, being a reformer, she believes that though the king is certainly far too embedded in all this, his son, the inheritor-elect, he can be influenced. Now, she doesn't want to change him. She doesn't set out to give him a philosophy. What she does instead is she teaches him the things he's supposed to know after she herself is educated on them, And then she goes out and she travels the world as much as she can. And she gathers documents and information, some of it firsthand, from the days of the Ilarian Empire. The Ilarian Empire was a much more equal society. And she teaches him this history because the history that he's supposed to know, the history most people know, is the history of the Cyril Commonwealth, the history of the Cyril Commonwealth's formation, and the fact that the Ilarian Empire was bad and it fell and it was time to move on. She teaches him all this. And it exposes him to ideas that show him a different way. And he comes to believe that the society his father has helped deepen, because it was already a patriarchal society, he just made it even worse. He comes to see this society as needing reform as well. And it's not because she tells him to, it's merely knowing what he does about history and how people used to be treated. He views the way they're treated now as inherently wrong. So, one of the things he tries to do is set an example, believing, I will have one wife, and therefore other people will eventually follow suit. In the Cyril Commonwealth, men can have up to 6 wives. They're often discarded when they're no longer useful, or if they're no longer entertaining, or what have you. And there are different wives serve different roles. There's the mentor wife. There's the political wife, who is the wife who deals with the political side for her husband. She deals with the court intrigue, essentially, among the other wives. Now, this doesn't work out, because Syria, as you can see down here, has a problem. She suffered from early menopause. She's 32 cycles old, which is what they refer to as a year. There's a reason for that we'll go into in another video. She's not able to have children. And even before then, she was never able to conceive successfully. So he only has one wife, but she can't give him an heir. This is immediate conflict with his father, both for him and for her. Because his father is, you have to continue the line, you have to produce an heir, you have to produce children. If that wife's not doing it, you need to get another one. And so they have constant conflict on this. And he's of the belief, well, you have to be able to, you fall in love, which he is. He's deeply in love with Syria. She's deeply in love with him. They're both devoted to each other. But she's more practical than he is. He's an idealist. She understands that not everything can be changed at once. She also understands that for him to have any success in reforming the Cyril Commonwealth, he needs to have kids. So, when her father-in-law sets up for him to meet somebody who he intends to betroth to him, she tells him to go through with it. She says, you need to have an heir, and it's not something I can provide. Now, nobody knows this at the beginning of the story. This is something she reveals early on. Syria is a intelligent, driven person. She's very loyal and devoted to her husband, but not to his father. She'll often wear, for example, colors. She's supposed to wear some amount of color of her husband's house, and she never does. She even goes so far as to wear like greens, because green was the household color of her house before she got married. She does it specifically to piss off his father, because she thinks he's a terrible human being. I don't think she's wrong. But, she enjoys teaching, she enjoys politics, she enjoys espionage, does a lot of historical research. She's a writer. She's not really a philosopher. She's something of an armchair philosopher in some respects, I suppose, but she's not a philosopher. She follows the Ilarian religion. She's human. She's only 5'2", which is about average for women in the Middle Ages, so it's the average I'm running with. She has an average build, though she is, by most accounts, a very attractive woman. She is very, very skilled with court intrigue, and that plays a huge role in the beginning of the book, and it's going to play roles later as well. One thing I'm trying to do, each of these characters has their own development arc and their own story and their own perspective. It's not about a bunch of characters that support the main character and the main character goes and saves the world. It's about a bunch of people that have to learn, in some cases, to work together. And they're all from different walks of life. They're even from different societies and cultures, some of which hate each other. Svarin's at the top of society. Syria is not that far below him. As the wife of the second most powerful man in the kingdom that they're in, and in most other kingdoms while they're at it, she has a lot of sway. But she's a woman. So within this society, her power level is significantly lower than Svarin's. We have another character who is one of her many servants, Alay. She's the one that she's going to travel with Svarin when he goes to the south. She's even farther down the rung, right? She's a servant. And the idea is to show these different perspectives. And I want to talk through the book about these different perspectives and how every one of these has something important to say and something important to do. And so sometimes these characters, even though many of them are going to ally in one form or another, now not all of them, are going to be apart from one another. Syria and Svarin, for example, separate almost immediately in the beginning of the book. She has to deal with stuff at home. He has to go to the south. And that is intentional. It's in part to allow the characters to breathe separate from one another. It's also, in this instance, a challenge for Svarin. He's never been away from her. He's been with her since he was 6. This is his first time traveling and dealing with stuff without her there. And he has to deal with everything that brings up. Now, as far as other skills, she's good with writing, she's good at reading, she's good with research, and she's something of an armchair philosopher. She's good at court intrigue. She's, however, not at all good at combat and never will be. There are women in this that are good at combat. This is not one of them. And, she's a little extroverted. Yeah, we got all these things here that are really more helpful for me than anything. She is the opposite of a peacemaker. She wants to change things. She wants things. She makes intentional barbs at Svarin's father with the goal of separating those two. She does have a tendency to overuse slang. In the Cyril Commonwealth, nobles speak without contractions. She occasionally slips into that, where she uses contractions. And, originally it was actually just to piss off his father. Now it's just kind of become part of who she is. She is not at all forgiving person. She did not get along with his father almost from day one. And she has never forgiven him for the way he treated his son, the way he treats women, the way he behaves in general. And she never will. She's one of those people where once you cross a certain line with her, you cannot come back. And in that same vein, she's very disrespectful to people she does not respect, like him. Now, to people she respects, like her husband, she is very respectful, treats them very well. But once you're on that other side of her, she doesn't care. She's very confident. She's a good leader of people because she does not look down on anyone. She has servants that are very loyal to her because she treats them very well. And she's treated their families very well, which is something a lot of nobility don't do. She is going to go through probably one of the harsher arcs in the story. I'll say that now. And there's reasons for that, which I can't really reveal because I don't want to give anything away. But let me know if you're excited or interested in the character. Let me know what you think in general in the comments down below. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you next time.